Today we're talking about down insulation layers. I have in front of me the Stone Glacier Grumman, the KUIU Super Down Pro, and then the Sitka HyperDown. Now these are going to be three fairly different jackets. They're not an apples to apples comparison, but I do want to talk about use case for each and how they compare. When I was planning this video, it was difficult to come up with different tests that would be true comparisons side by side because there's so many different variables when it comes to warmth and your own body temperature, as well as wind and conditions. You know, they change all the time. So this is going to be a little more about specs, personal opinions, and some of the features in each. Hopefully it'll still help you make a purchasing decision. And then the Stone Glacier, pretty similar to the Sitka, but it's also a little more fitted, so you have less fabric hanging around. But again, that thinner face fabric than the KUIU, I think, makes it a little bit quieter. Starting off with some specs on the Grumman. This one is a large, comes in at 11.8 ounces. It is 850 fill power and 5.3 ounce fill weight. The price on this jacket comes in at about 350 bucks. Now when you talk about features, it's pretty straightforward. It is a very lightweight jacket. The face fabric is going to be quite thin and it can be a little bit delicate at times. As far as length goes, it goes down far enough in my opinion. I wouldn't mind a little more length. There is no cinch on the bottom of the waist here, so you can't cinch it tight around, but there is some elastic and I've found it to be plenty adequate. Two pockets here. I've had decent luck with the zipper. No chest pocket, no armpit zips. In terms of arm space, there is plenty. It does not feel compressed on my forearms, and shoulder space is good as well. Obviously, I'm a slimmer guy, so that might be a little different if you're a larger build. As far as the hood goes, you only have a single cinch on the back, right here. And when you cinch that up, it actually tightens a strap that goes around the rim and just under my ears. I do kind of like that. It feels like I've got a hat on, but there's not a great cinch to keep my face smaller. I have used it a lot, but in really cold conditions, when you want to totally tuck your face in, this isn't going to have that type of wind protection against that really biting cold. Now, when you want to talk about the actual insulation that this jacket provides, the baffling is the first thing I'm going to look at, and it's fairly small. It's going to be long distances between each seam, and you're going to have a lot of insulation in each baffle. I've noticed wearing this coat that it holds its loft really well. However, there are a lot of seams, so it's a little less windproof than some other options. I think that also has to do with the fact that it's lighter weight and it has a thinner face fabric on it. When you look at it through the light, you can see that the down is evenly distributed, and I have found that the down will stay in an even distribution through heavy use, and it seems to hold up pretty dang good in terms of keeping its loft and keeping its insulation properties as you use the jacket. One quick mention with the hood is that this little tab kind of rests funny on your head if you are sleeping in this jacket, so it's not my favorite option for sleeping in, just because that can get uncomfortable. The last thing we'll talk about is packability. This jacket does come with a case, so I'm going to fit it into there and we'll compare packability in a bit. Okay. So there's your final pack size. It's not totally tight. You can still compress it, move it around in your pack. This one feels a little noisier in the cold. Try and do like a sound test for you. I don't know. Moving on to the KUIU Super Down Pro. This one comes in at 14.8 ounces in weight. It's 850 plus fill power, and it has 5 ounces of fill weight. Now, the first thing I noticed about this compared to the Grumman is that you have a thicker and more durable face fabric, and that likely attributes to the higher weight. Putting it on, what I noticed right away, the insulation loft is actually compressed when I put my arm in the sleeve. So myself, I might honestly buy an XL, not because it's gonna fit more comfortably, but because it's gonna be a little bit warmer with that added width in the arm, especially the forearm area. Looking at the bottom, you have a cinch here and here. You can get that nice and tight. You've got two standard pockets here. You've got a chest pocket on this one, and you have armpit zippers. So that's gonna be a big difference between both of these jackets that do not have pit zips. On an insulation layer, in my opinion, that's not incredibly useful just because if I'm gonna be moving, I'm gonna take my jacket off anyways. And if I'm moving so fast that I can't take my puffy off, I'm not gonna have time to unzip my armpits. However, Austin uses them all the time on his. He really likes them, so that's gonna be a personal choice. The sleeves have a Velcro cuff. Shoulder space is just fine. It does fit a little snugger on the torso as well than the Stone Glacier did. When I put the hood up, I have a zipper that goes right about to my chin. It's not quite enough to be like tucked in here nicely, but it's also not down out of the way. I do have a Velcro cinch on the hood here to keep it back. I never use that, but there are pulleys on the hood to cinch this entire face piece down. It's easy operation, one-handed, and this is huge for me. If you have a wind blowing in your face, you're trying to glass into the wind, this is going to keep the wind out. It's very nice. So taking a quick look at the baffles, you're going to have a fairly different design than the Stone Glacier. These have kind of a grid pattern for baffling. In terms of usability, I'm not sure I can say there's a ton of difference in the real world. Every time that you stitch through your baffles, you're gonna open it up for cold air to come through, for wind to come through. I do notice that this one is a little more windproof than the Grumman, but just slightly, and I don't know if I can confidently say that. I think the face fabric is a little more durable, so that probably blocks a little more wind. And one thing I do know is that these larger baffles can sometimes clump and fall after heavy use, and then you've just got two thin layers of fabric that's insulating you and a clump of down at the bottom. It can be more difficult to loft that out. When you do look at this jacket up against the light, just like I had the Stone Glacier, you can see quite a bit of light coming through. I think the down in this jacket is going to be a little bit loftier almost than the Stone Glacier, but then the Stone Glacier has a higher fill weight. I don't really know how to quantify that exactly. This is just, a straight up example of two products against the exact same light in the exact same scenarios. When you take it out into the real world, both perform very similarly. The last thing we'll talk about is going to be packability. This jacket does have the ability to pack into its own left pocket, which I think is pretty cool. We'll do that now. I'll tell you what, compared to packing the Grumman in its own case, it is definitely more difficult to get the KUIU in its own pocket. So in reality, I don't find myself using the pack it into its own pocket feature in the field that often, just because it is so dang tight, but you do get as small a pack size as possible. Obviously this is the Sitka. And I think there's a little less noise, probably due to the thinner face fabric on it. Now, this is the last jacket we're going to talk about. This is the Sitka HyperDown. It's a newer product, and it's not really comparable to either of these, but I still want to talk about it. This one's going to come in at 20.6 ounces, so you're almost twice as heavy as the Stone Glacier Grumman. However, it is built for a different use. This thing is an absolute tank shell. Like, I have never been cold in this jacket. It is as lofty as it gets, and it is just amazingly, amazingly warm. The fill weight is 8.1 ounces compared to 5 ounces and 5.3 ounces. So that's a lot of difference there. And it's actually 90% down and 10% synthetic Primaloft gold. Now they say on the website they do that because the synthetic helps loft the down when you pack it and unpack it. I don't know exactly. What I do know is this one works in the field. I realize I forgot to mention the KUIU comes in at $399. And this Sitka HyperDown comes in at $449. So basically 350 bucks, 400 bucks, 450 bucks. So putting this on, we've got plenty of length. This is actually perfect length, I would say, although it does look a little funny and it might feel a little funny at first. In a real world scenario, having that extra length is nice. You do have a cinch on the side, so you can bring that tight up against you. You've got your two standard pockets here and lots of insulation on both sides of the pocket. No chest zipper, no pit zips. In terms of arm freedom, there's enough space in the forearms, enough space in the shoulders, lots of space in the chest and waist area. And like I said, this jacket's gonna look a little funny as an everyday wear piece, whereas either of these are gonna look pretty good. When it comes to the hood, It's pretty lofty. You have a lot of neck space, and that zipper gets above my chin and below my mouth, which personally, that's right where I want it to be. There is no cinch on the back of the hood, nothing in the way, so sleeping in this jacket is nice. And you have a cinch here and here, and you have the option to cinch this thing way down, which in seriously cold conditions, that can be a game changer. One last thing to mention is that you do have another strip of down against the zipper, so that's going to keep wind from coming through the zipper. As far as baffling style goes, this one is going to be box baffled, which means that there are no through stitching. Whereas both of these, you saw the through stitching. When you put it up against the light, you can see straight through that stitching. Wind can also come through. We do need to talk about packability, although that is not going to be this jacket's strong suit, because it's not meant to be lightweight and packable, as you can tell by the 20-ounce weight. We'll stuff it into its little mesh pocket here. And I'm not sure that that's what this pocket's designed for, but it works quite nicely. So there is no final cinch on it, but as you can see, this is more football sized than these ones. Like I said, not totally comparable, but in price, it's fairly close, and in function, it's way warmer. I think a use case for each of these is going to be the Grumman will be great on those lightweight backpacking trips where you're going to be experiencing cold conditions, but you know, temps above that 25-degree range. Same with the Super Down Pro. It's a little bit heavier, but really not much. It is a very well-liked product and honestly serves a very similar purpose to the Stone Glacier Grumman. In terms of the Sitka HyperDown, this is going to be your cold weather jacket. If the temps aren't getting below 32 degrees, I'm probably not taking this jacket just because it is large, it's heavy, and it's incredibly warm. It'd probably get too hot, honestly. However, if it does dip down below 32, I think I'm going to reach for this over either of these regardless of what I'm doing, just because I'd rather have one layer that I know I can put on and be insanely warm. It's kind of like a comfortability thing for me. It's like, yes, I don't worry about it being too cold for my jacket. If it's 10 degrees colder than forecasted, we'll be just fine. In terms of windproofness, this one comes out on top. This one's a little better than the Grumman, but it's marginal. As far as warmth goes, these two I think are pretty well neck and neck. Obviously a lot warmer here. That's all I got for this video. We do sell the Stone Glacier Grumman and the Sitka HyperDown. Obviously, KUIU is direct to consumer, and we can't sell them. If you are interested in either of these jackets, go to gearful.com, earn some waypoints, get rewards back on your next purchases, and check out some of the other gear we have to offer. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.